Welcome everyone. My name is Anne Shotter, and as President of the Tarot Guild of Australia, it is my pleasure today to be speaking to one of Australia's most successful clairvoyants, counsellors, author, tarot reader and teacher. Paul is the author of 10 books, which is a huge effort, Paul. I don't know how you can write 10 books. And is a regular media guest, being invited to share his entertaining insights and knowledge on television, radio, in magazines and newspapers around Australia. In 1985, Paul established the Academy of Psychic Sciences in Sydney, aiming to set a standard in the industry. Paul also runs a private practice in Sydney as a clairvoyant, counsellor and hypnotherapist, and conducts courses around Australia. Paul has been practicing and teaching the psychic sciences for more than 40 years. We are very pleased to welcome you, Paul, to our discussion today, and we're very interested in hearing what you have to teach us.
Thanks, Anne. Hi, everyone.
Paul, let's start off with a couple of questions. Well, first of all, before we have any in-depth questions, can you tell us about your new book that I believe is coming out? Is it that book number 10 or is that book number 11?
That's number 11.
That's book number 11.
I'm working on 12, 13 and 14 at the moment. But
can you tell us more about that?
Okay, so this is called Advanced Tarot. It's in between the two books that are out at the moment. So I've got the Tarot Reveal, which is a basic book for beginners, and everyone's got to start somewhere, you know.
Yes.
And then I've got a Tarot Masterclass, which is for assuming you know all the basics and you're in private practice. And this one's in between for people who wanted to break every card down into lots of different sections. What if they're asking about relationships? What if they're asking about health? What if they're asking about finance? What if they're asking about that sort of thing? So every card's broken down into 6 uprights.
That'd be great. And
because my way of thinking is, I know if that means this and the question is that, I can link the two together. But some readers have a lot of trouble finding the common links between those sort of things, you know. And if you can find a way to do it for them, then they can extrapolate when they're you know. Yeah.
That sounds great. And the other two?
The other two, I'm writing an advanced intuition book, because the intuition book, it's a weird thing. Since COVID, that book is selling 15% more than it was before that. And it's been out since 2011. It's just the sales are starting to climb and climb. And I'm thinking people are stuck at home and they want to learn something. You know, I just find a lot of people want to learn something. So I've noticed also that I'm not teaching classes at the moment, but my private lessons have gone through the roof, you know, because people think I'm going crazy at home, you know.
Yeah, and, it is. It's good for tarot, I think. We can work with that.
Absolutely. And you'd probably find the same. Well, and the other one is I'm rewriting my Astrology Revealed book. It's been out of print for about 15 years. And I looked at it and thought, it's a bit slim. I'd like to make this a better book. So I'm rewriting that, and I'm working on 2 novels aside from that as well.
Wow, Paul, we're going to put all of those on our website, and we'll be looking out for them in the bookshops or on Amazon or wherever it is that we shop. Now, Paul, a minute ago you just mentioned about intuition. And I noticed that the new buzzword in tarot seems to be intuitive tarot. And I thought to myself this morning, you being a clairvoyant as well as someone who uses the cards, what do you think about that?
I think it's necessary to have a basic framework. So the guy who taught with the tarot in '84, he was dead keen on mathematics. So he loved the system and the numbers, and he would have a calculator on his table. So he would get it up to, like, if you're using a 7-card layout and this client has asked 3 questions in a row and the same card has appeared in the same placement in the 7, those 3 times in a row, what are the odds of that happening? And sometimes he'd say 496,100, you know, of the odds. He just loved that system. And he would argue that if you know your card meanings, you can always give a reasonable reading, because readers have bad days, and particularly. Now, when I worked in London for 6 months in '88, I worked with a couple of clairvoyants that just did clairvoyant readings, and on good days, these people were absolutely brilliant. One of them could find, take your keys and tell you every room in the house and what was in every room, who was in the photo on flight to management. Wow. But on a bad day, they were terrible because they had no systems. And one of them at one stage in the afternoon, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she said, I'm going to bed, lovey. I've had a bad day today. And she had a flat upstairs, so she went upstairs to bed. I had to take over her clients for the rest of the day because she just couldn't read. Now, if you've got a system on a bad day when you just had a breakup in a relationship, or you've got a big tax bill, or you're worried about something and the clients arrive, you want to give them the best freedom you can give them, because they're going to make decisions with that and they're going to have to live with those decisions, you know? Yeah. So I think it's just not enough. When I looked at her going up to bed, and she said literally, she'd seen 4 clients. She said, I talked a load of rubbish today, love it, I'm off to bed, you know? And I thought, don't be that. Just, you know, you've got to know your stuff, you know? And so, for instance, when I'm teaching partnership, there is no intuition at all in it. It's simply a language. And I say, if I cut into intuition, I'm going to get lazy with this and I'll lose it. And there's so much to it that, you know, people walk out of that course at the end of the 3 Sundays and their heads are spinning like, how the hell did you talk for that long and show us all this stuff? So I think that just reading without the structure, it's a tricky thing, you know, because that's almost coming down to one card cuts, isn't it? You know, and I'm always saying to students, advanced courses, I say, can I have a show of hands? Who agrees with me that you shouldn't use one card cuts and you shouldn't really read for yourself because you can't be objective with it? All the hands go. Now, who's read for themselves in the last 30 days? And all the hands go. Everybody knows the rules and everybody's bending it. But with one card, they're okay if you can ask, should I get a cappuccino or a cafe latte? That's fine. But if you're asking, you know, who's going to win the next election, or is it wise for you to pursue this relationship? You don't want a one card cut. You want a system. You want a layout. You want someone who knows the meanings. You know? So I think that intuition is great. If you've given the layout and then you go on to intuition after that, that's fine. And that's how I did some training in London when I had the last 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks before I came back to Australia. I thought, actually, I can say anything I want now because I'm never going to see these people again. So what I did was, at the end, I had this process where I'd say, I'm picking up something else, but, oh no, it might be wrong. What does the client say? Tell me anyway. So now I'm told this could be wrong, and I'm now got license to say whatever I wanted to say. And I just rattled stuff, you know. So I got my mind out of the way and I'd start talking. And within 2 or 3 days, people were turning up. One lady turned up and she had makeup running, and because they could turn up without an appointment, you see, it was a shop. And she said, I've just been to a wake. I was standing by the grand piano with a sandwich in one hand, a glass of wine in the other. And the guy told me that you told him this piano would be covered in flowers. He was going to a funeral. And I thought, I've got to find you, you know. So that was something I'd said at the end of a reading just for fun, you know, just, but you've got to have the basics first. So if that's wrong and you're uncentered, then all the rest is right, you know.
Yeah, I know. People seem to really get very excited when you tell them something that really they think it was impossible for you to know. Yeah, but sometimes that is in the cards as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can look at the card.
It's all, yeah. But
I think at the moment,
yes.
Sorry. I think at the moment I'm seeing is the star card upside down all the time. And to me, the star card upside down is I always saw it as travel, but business travel. So like you're on a timeline, and a feeling like I'm free, but I'm not free. I'm getting it all the time because everyone's got freedom to be at home, but they're not free. You know, so
I'm getting clients who have the devil a lot, or the hangman, or the chariot block.
Hangman in Melbourne would be a big card at the moment, I'm sure.
Yeah, it depends, I think, how we view it all. I'm rather enjoying it because I'm not as busy as normal, racing around everywhere. So, you know, everyone's different. Now, Paul, today you're going to give us a little lesson, aren't you, on the 4 suits as stages of emotional development. Yeah. That sounds really interesting. We'd love to hear that, Paul.
This is something that came out of the new book, the Advanced Tarot book. And I woke up one morning thinking, you know, in a way, the 4 suits, wands, cups, swords, and pentacles, in that order, are stages of development in life, you know. So if you look at wands people, they learn best by doing. So these aren't people who like the swords. Swords can watch you fall into a puddle and know how to step around it. They can read about it and step around it, you know. They're very quick-minded. But the wands people, I'm a wands person, so I can say it. We blunder in sometimes, you know. Burn your fingers, and then you're putting up the sign saying stove is hot. And everyone.
I think we should both confess to that, Paul, before we start.
Okay. So wands is childhood, where you run around, you learn, you fall over, you climb on something, gravity pulls you back down to the ground. You do it, you learn it, you hurt yourself, you get the scars, but you learn. Okay, and that's that first stage. So maybe up to 9-10 years of age. Okay, then the next stage is the cup stage, where we learn to share with someone special. So in the teenage years, we're learning to have close friendships, learning to have maybe a love relationship, we're learning how to share on an intimate level, and when we're dealing with all those emotions that come with the teenage years, you know. And adults sometimes roll their eyes, but if they can remember what that felt like, those emotions, those roller coasters, all those hormones, all that energy, you know, and getting that under control it's difficult, and it cuts people really feel that energy very, very clearly. In fact, they're the most likely people to sense how everybody in the room is feeling. And so I say to them, it can be very exhausting sometimes. You go to a shopping centre, you go to a cafe, and your friend's not feeling well, your friend's angry, and you're picking up all this anger. And I jokingly say, you often want to counsel them just so that your stomach feels better, so they calm down, so you'll calm down in your belly. And it's one of those things. So that's the teenage years. Then we get into the 20s, where we're sipping cafe lattes, discussing the revolution, talking about how we'd like to change the world and how our vision of the future is this, and it's grand. But meanwhile, the demonstrations happened outside the cafe. They won the vote. The civil wars we put to rest. And we never left the cafe. We're ordering another latte. So it's all intellectual. And then we finally get into our 30s or maybe into the 40s, and we get to the Pentacles realization. We're going to need to come to a place to live. We're going to need to retire one day. We're going to need a garden to grow, because a garden can make you happy for years and years and years at a time. It's not fleeting like other things. And just when you feel like we're all in and out of lockdown now, spring's going to come, and out come these blossoms, and you're staring out your window thinking, wow, look at this. And so we go through these stages. Now, I think everybody goes through the stages, and obviously some people are one type or another. Now, I'm not saying one's less mature than the other. I just think there's stages we go through. Because if you take a business, for instance, you want the ones people in the sales and marketing, because they're going to kick up a storm, they're going to drag in some publicity, they're going to make you successful. You would not put them in the accounts department. I don't know where the money went. We had a great party. It was a bigger party than we thought, 1,500 people. We asked for 500, and money's gone, And so you've got a negative ones person actually in the White House at the moment. So they tend to fight with everybody. When the negative types, they tend to, they're brash, they don't know how to negotiate, And
do you know what star sign he is?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, but he's got the Leo ascendant, hasn't he?
Yeah, oh, that's right. Yes, I knew he had it.
It's all about the hair. Got to get the hair right.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
It's brilliant. He's a Gemini, isn't he?
He's a Gemini with the Leo ascendant. Yeah.
And so I've lost my train of thought now.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Because I was looking at the two charts. He's in Biden's chart yesterday, and looking at them on November the 3rd, thinking, what's going to happen here? Because it's a tricky.
So politics would be ruled by the suit of swords, wouldn't it?
I remember looking at astrologers, groups of astrologers at meetings years ago, thinking they're the original tech guys. They learn all about one aspect of astrology, and they're not all about it. They're religious about it. That's absolute scientists, researchers, and they don't care about the rest of it. I'm thinking, well, these people are they're eccentric, but none of them think they're eccentric. And I love that. I thought, I'll fit right in. This is great. So. With the different types, for instance, with the cups people, you put them in HR, you put them in situations where they're helping the team to work together as a team, And I always laugh about the HR department, because this side of that department, when we're meeting the HR team, they're saying, we're a family, we're a group of people, we're all going to really support each other. And then the door opens slightly to let somebody in, someone's backstabbing somebody else, and someone's straggling someone over a desk, and things are getting a little out of hand in the moment. I can't trust it. In swords, the interesting with swords people in business, you can put them almost anywhere in a business. The only thing is they'll get bored quickly. So they like to make systems run. They're good at negotiating things. They're pretty good at sales too. Almost anywhere. Put them in the accounts department, they'll get a bit bored with it after a while, and then they get creative with the accounts department. Before you know it, they've got a house in Spain and some offshore accounts. That sort of thing. Very creative accounting. And the Pentacles can you put in the accounts department, because they're good at chasing out money, making sure everything's paid for, that sort of thing. Now, these are bold brush strokes. It's not, you wouldn't limit people to this, because everybody's a combination of everything. I did have a lady in a course in Brisbane about 12 years ago, and she said, I think I'm all for. And I said, I've got a simple suggestion, stand up. And I asked her to stand up. I asked another lady to come up and step hard on her toes. She didn't, but I asked her, I said, because if I stomped on your toes, I'll see what type you are. If you're a wands person, you'll punch me. If you're a cuts person, you'll burst into tears. If you're a swords person, why? Why my shoes? She's got open-toed sandals. Why wouldn't you step on her toes? Pentacles people, they grit the teeth, head off to the fridge. And it's just the different ways that people react in circumstances, And so I ask students, for instance, not to just think this is the meaning of the card, and this is what I say to a client. But when you see a child in the shopping centre having a tantrum, what card is that? When you see the parent thinking, I'm so embarrassed, but I just want to throttle this kid, what card is that? You know? And somebody else is putting something down into their pocket, slipping out of the store with it, you know, hoping the alarm doesn't go off. And what card is that? You know, always looking at it the other way around. If I was telling a story, this would be this card.
Yeah, that's a good way to teach, isn't it?
Yeah, because you're really looking at cards every day, everywhere you look.
Yeah.
The other day, we had 3 teacups out on the tray, and I thought, it's 3 cups. You know, everywhere you look, there's signs of this, symbols of this. Put down 3 plates. Oh my God, it's the 3 pentacles. All right, who's doing some studies? Learning anyone? You know, opportunities, things like that. So everywhere you look, there are opportunities, you know, to look at the tarot.
Even just watching a movie.
Yeah, you can look at the types. So who is this? What type of person is this? And the good thing about good stories is they always act out of character at some stage. So they set up the character, then they act out of character. Okay, now we're seeing some hidden other part, you know, some reverse part of this, or, you know, that sort of thing, you know. And
I was very excited, I remember, when I was doing that really bad thing of reading tarot for myself. And I always used to come out as the Queen of Wands. And then one day I saw I was the Queen of Pentacles. I can't tell you how excited I was.
That's great. That's fantastic. Did I took yourself out to lunch, but carefully counted the coins first to make sure you had enough? That's good. That's good. Yeah.
I always go on. I like the Carl Jung's function types. Yeah. And, you know, if I'm a Wands, then if I come up as the Pentacles, then that means I might be doing something towards integrating my opposite, which made me very excited. But I'm not. I have no Earth, and I'm not good at any of those Earth things.
Okay. How do you surround yourself with Earth people?
I'm married to one.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah. It's funny how they are. They're opposite and they attract, and yet they're still fundamentally very different, you know?
Yeah.
They don't change each other. They're just, yeah.
Well, it's a combination of opposites, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really interesting. Now, one of the court cards that people never seem to want to be or have anything to do with is the King of Swords. Can you give us a good spin on him?
Okay. Firstly, he's often a professional person, doctor, lawyer, accountant, someone where in a career where he has to learn a lot and keep learning. The Queen's the same. They've got that incredible memory. I'll give you an example of this. Queen of Swords in a palmistry course I ran last year. And so this is 3 full Sundays. The book is 330 pages. I cover the whole thing in the Sundays. And I talk as fast as I'm talking now. We do demonstrations, do all sorts of things. It's full on. On the 3rd Sunday, we had 2 volunteers come in for a palm reading. And I heard her quote word for word, without looking at a book or anything, what I'd said in the first Sunday.
Wow.
It was paragraphs of stuff. This means this and this and this. And I said, how the hell did you do that? I said, of 30 years of teaching, I've never seen anyone do that with the palmistry, because it's a really complicated thing, you know. And she just said, that was it, you know. And I sent her the advanced tarot book. I wanted just to get a second pair of eyes over it. And she read it in a weekend, 530 pages, you know. And I said, oh, yeah, it's good. You need to change this. I thought, wow, that's the King of Swords is the same. Very quick to spot an opportunity, spot what's wrong, and they're good with logic. I'll give you an example. My son's a Knight of Swords at the moment. When he was a page, he was about 4. And his mum and I took him to it was a shop warming. So it's at someone's house. They'd opened a health food store down south near Bega. And they had a party to celebrate the opening of the store. And it's great. A lot of people, this big house, verandas, that sort of thing. We arrived. He went up and saw a girl about 7 or 8 years of age. She was at about 4. And he stepped onto the veranda and said, hi. And she just launched into him with a tirade of harshness, really. She said, you stupid girl, you can't do anything right. And obviously someone had sold the stuff to her and she was saying it to him. And I thought, I better rescue this kid. He turned to me and said, Dad, she called me a girl. And he dismissed everything else she said. He was wrong with one part of it. No, if I found a flaw in your argument, it's over, you know? And he's been like that ever since. One night when I was putting him to sleep, he was about 5 or 6. And I said, he said, Dad, I want a drink of water. Dad, I'm hungry. I said, look, you've had enough to eat, you've had enough to drink, you've had enough of everything. Go to sleep. And as I was closing the door, I heard, I haven't had enough of tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
For the rest of the night, I'm thinking, oh, that's incredible. If I've ever had enough tomorrow, then shoot me now. You know, this is just, it's just such a wands thing. If I ever shoot me now, you know. And I thought, wow, that is incredible logic. But it's just a kid's logic. I haven't had enough of tomorrow, you know. And he's got that logic when you're getting into, even with the swords people, you're ready to punish him, and he's negotiating a softer punishment. You know, do you remember when you were wrong when you punished me that time? I expect less now because of, you know, and so it's not over. If he can get 30 or 40% off this punishment, he's doing all right. You know?
Wow, he's going to be an entrepreneur or do something wheelie and dealy.
It's just the swords energy. So the positive side of the King of Swords is, he says the way to a girl's heart is through her ear. A good conversation. And he said, it's not just a good conversation. What he says is, you start an interesting conversation and then you leave. You hang up or you leave. If she's a swords person, she's thinking, what happens next? I've got to ring him. I've got to find out. Now you're real line in. You know, the fish is on the line. Yeah, very calculating. But just loves conversation. So I was at a party, a Knight of Swords friend of mine, and he was waxing lyrical with a girl he just met. And she said, Toby, you're all talk. And he said, yes, but it depends on how you spell it. T-O-R-Q-U-E. You know? And I thought, wow, has this guy rehearsed this line? Or has he been he's just been waiting for someone to say it, something like that to him.
Oh, yes.
Is it just, you know?
You should put an advertisement, warn all the women in his life. What I find interesting too, Paul, is how, I mean, I think what you've said about all the emotional security stages, all the, you know, the development stages in the suitor sword is interesting. But what when you're looking at someone who's, say, 70 and the reading that you're doing for them, it's as if it is for a child.
Okay, so, well, in which case, and you think, for instance, is that person coming up as a page or a knight?
I wasn't talking about the court cards in particular, just that it would say that the reading itself is full of cups cards and like very emotional, maybe some wands, that kind of a reading. Would you therefore see that the person is behaving in that way, or do they have more maturity that they can access, or how would you handle that?
It would depend on a lot of different things. For instance, if the person was doing something creative, writing or screenwriting or an actor or that sort of thing, they would need all those emotional things going on, you know, in which case it would be inspiration, wouldn't it, you know? Otherwise, if inspiration's only ever just swords, it can become dry, very calculating in the end, of just a clockwork, you know? So you need some of those other energies in there to make things alive, you know? Yeah, it would depend a lot on the person, on the question, if it was a general reading. Yeah, it's tricky. It really is tricky. I'm fond of saying to the students, don't ever ask me to interpret your layouts because I wasn't there for it. Because in the moment, sometimes you see a layout of cards, and my example of that is always, I'm giving a lady a reading. She's asked, what does the future hold for me for travel this year? Her and her husband travel regularly. She's in their 50s, this woman. Quite a comfortable life she had. Full reverse. All I saw in the full reverse that day was the snow on the mountains. And I said, you're going to Aspen, Colorado. Now, it's a very specific thing to say. I'm not saying you're going skiing or you're going somewhere. Once you've made that your statement, you're out there, you're committed now, you know? And she said, yes, we always go to Aspen. My husband's business partner's got a chalet there, so we go there every year. I want to know about the other study. I'm thinking, what the hell? What do you know? So sometimes in the moment, that's never meant that sense. A layout of cards can mean a specific thing that you feel like, I'm on the money here with this. I'm clear about what I'm seeing here. So it would be hard until I saw the layout, and especially if the person's there and you're in that moment, you know?
It's sort of a situation of what energies are needed for what particular project.
But also, sometimes when you're giving the reading itself, you're in the middle of it, you can't see it. So when students sit for assessments with me to get a certificate, I sit behind them and I take notes, and they give a reading to a stranger, and I put the recorder on the table just as it would in a professional setting. And I've got the liberty of being able to look at it without having to talk, without doing any thinking. So it's afterwards I can summarise it beautifully when the client's gone. I had that luxury. I wouldn't have that luxury if I was at the table, because they're paying you to talk. They're curious. They're interjecting with other questions. If they're a swords person, they're always asking questions with their questions. And that sort of thing, you know. And so, so it really is tricky, you know. The compromise I had for people who want to read for themselves, readers, is to say, do a layout for yourself, leave it on the table or on the floor, wherever you did it, for 24 hours. More times. I didn't see the chariot. Oh, there's the Ace of Swords there. I didn't see that. Because people jump to the answer, and I say, you don't go out on a date and jump straight to coffee. You start with the entree, you have the main course, you have conversations, you know, and this jumping to the, you know, and that's, I wonder a bit about the just reading intuitively only one card at a time, if it's jumping to the third. No,
I find it interesting when you read for yourself. One of the things I like to do is I'm inclined to speed read for myself. You know, is there a tower in there? Is there a death card? You know, is things looking good? I'll write right. I'll put them away. But what I've been doing is taking a picture.
Yeah, I'm doing that a little bit at the moment as well. Yeah.
And not making it my own reading. It's just in my phone with perhaps a few other readings that I might have taken a picture of. And it's really interesting. Sometimes I catch myself reading it and then afterwards realising that that was my reading. And I tricked myself into reading for myself.
Now, if you're tricking yourself into giving yourself readings, do you give yourself a discount? That's the question.
Oh, always.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So you're a good client. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. What I've done is these days, especially when I'm doing examples for a book or that sort of thing, you know, I'll take the photograph, I'll put it on an MS Word file with the question underneath and the date.
Yes.
I know what the question was, you know, because you know, when people are asking about one specific thing, you know, and it's tricky because the thing I notice also, sometimes you'll describe something to a client and they've got no idea what you're talking about. And then they'll come back to you and say, when you said that, I thought you meant this. It's just that divided by a common tongue.
It happens a lot. And or else the client will say, but this has already happened.
Yeah.
And then I always think, well, there might be a pattern here. It might actually happen again.
Yeah.
You know, just because it's already happened, that's a real clue as to not let it happen again. So exactly. I find that, that's interesting.
I had a lady about 18 months ago, and it was last client on a Friday night, and it was a tarot reading. And so she sits down, general reading, I describe a blonde-haired man, and then she asked about relationship, and I describe this man. And then when I finished the layout, I then started to describe him intuitively. I said, he's medium height, he's got blonde hair, a little short nose, little baby nose. He's built really like this is the role model for gym wear, you know, because he looks like this is a guy who's at the gym every day of the week, you know. No, can't place him. He's got blue eyes. He's, you know, just baby face. No, can't place him at all. 10 minutes before the hour finished, I hear the entrance door open for the waiting room, and she said, "Oh, it's my partner's come to pick me up." So I opened the door quickly, just say hi, just take a seat. It won't be long. I see the man I've been describing. I said, "Come in with me." And I bring him into the room. I said, "Now stand next to me." I asked her, look at both of us. Which one of us is at the gym every day? Which one of us has got the baby face? Which one of us has got a little tiny nose? Not this nose, you know? And she said, "Oh, yeah." And I'm thinking, how on earth can you? He goes back and sits down. I ask her, "Now, how long have you gone out with this man?" 18 months. "And why didn't you notice him from his description?" You know?
But that's incredible, Paul, that you your clairvoyance, obviously, and your psychic abilities allow you to describe someone in that detail.
It's not always. Sometimes you get it and you're very clear. I'm a bit of a terrier. If I say that this means this, and I'm pretty sure about that, I hold on to it, you know, and the client, because sometimes the client doesn't quite, you know.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like pulling teeth or being in a lawsuit, in a court case. It's all about the question you ask. So a lady was asking about a relationship, and I said, "I see 2 children." She said, No, we've only just met." I said, "No, I see definitely 2 children. I said, boy and a girl." No, I can't place them." Okay. I said, "Do you have any children?" She said, "Oh, he's got a child, but that's a teenager. That doesn't count." I said, "But I see 2 children." "Oh, well, I've got a child, you know." So there's an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. I said, "You don't think a 13-year-old is going to be oppositional in your relationship? You know, these 2 kids, they're going to be united and hating the 2 of you being together because you're not their parents, you know?" And she said, "Oh, no, that wouldn't happen." I'm trying not to.
I think clients have changed a lot. Do you think, I mean, like you, I've been doing this for a very long time, and I find that the character, if you like, of the client has changed a great deal during that period of time.
How do you mean?
Well, first of all, when I first started out, you know, it was something people did, you know, as almost like a guilty thing, that they'd come and they'd make sure no one saw them coming, and, you know, they wouldn't tell their partner that they'd been for a tarot reading, etc., etc. And they used to just sit there and they really wouldn't participate in the reading very much. Now they come and they've got their list of demands. You know, I want you to tell me this, 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 and this. And
I think that's good. I think that's better prepared. The first time, it was about 20 years ago, a woman came, a Pentacles woman came, and she had a list of questions. I was irked by the whole thing. I thought, you're not treating this as a spiritual exercise, you're treating this as just a consultation. And a swords friend of mine said, actually, no, that's the most repeated client you've ever had. And so I took this to the other extreme. Over the next 12 years or so, I designed a 55 questions questionnaire. I said, if you go to a cafe, they show you what chef can do. And you can say, I have the omelette, but I don't want this. I don't want the anchovies, or I don't want this. And so I trialed that originally. So I made this two-sided questionnaire, 55 questions, and it was stolen 3 times in the first 3 months out of my office. And I thought, oh, this is good. So I laminated it, because it's hard to keep in a handbag if it's laminated. You open it, whoosh, it's out, And stolen another 3 times. Someone even rang me and said, I'm sorry, I swiped your questions menu to show my girlfriend. It was in the Sydney Morning Herald when I left with it. She never in the newspaper and took the questions. So I thought, well, it went into the next book after that. I thought, but it's not on our website, because I just know it took me a long time to get these questions right. And it'll be on everybody's website before you know it, because people copy things, And then more recently in the advanced one, I came up with one extra question, and I think it's the best question I've ever come up with, and that is, what do I most need to know right now?
That's my favourite question, Paul. And that's why I always open with some sort of a general spread where the tarot can tell the person what they need to know, rather than, am I going to move house? Am I going to change jobs? Am I going to find a new boyfriend?
Yeah, I always start with the general as well, simply because I want to know what the history is. I want to know what's going on. Who are the cast and crew in this?
That's right, yes. And what I find, it took me a while to catch on to this, but once I got it, I kept monitoring it in my readings, that if you have clients, I'm sure as you do, Paul, and the same clients keep returning over a 20-year period or something like that, what I notice is when they're in love with someone, that person always appears as, wands or cups, or maybe pentacles. But the thing that stood out is once that relationship is broken up, they nearly always appear as swords.
Wow.
Like, that's my ex. I'm not in love with them anymore. I attribute to them all the negative qualities, and I've cut. And I thought that was something really interesting, particularly when you were there for the reading when they fell in love with them.
Yeah.
And, they were, let's say, the King of Cups.
Yeah.
And then now they're the King of Swords. Yeah. And I see that a lot. That's projection, isn't it?
Well, it's possible. It's possible, yeah. I'm always curious if someone comes back regularly, though. Someone comes back in every 12 months or so, and it's just the same. I'm always asking myself, what have I missed? What did I miss this time? What can I say to them that will help them to see what we're not seeing here? And sometimes it's really simple, and sometimes it's in the cards, and sometimes it's quite carefully concealed.
A lot of my clients tell me that it's something they do for themselves as a self-care exercise to come for a tarot reading, and they do it every year. And one client said to me, like how you go to the dentist and the gynecologist and you go for a health check. And, this is a spiritual health check. And I quite like that.
That's good. I have a couple of business clients, and they always do the due diligence. They see the lawyer for the contracts, and they just see me, is this the right place to situate this business, that sort of thing. One thing I've noticed since COVID, it surprised me. Firstly, I thought I'd get a lot of people asking what the future holds for career. They've lost their job and that sort of thing. But then I realised when people have lost their job suddenly like that, they're probably not in the mood to spend money, so they're holding on. What I'm getting instead is people saying, I've had some time off and I don't want to go back to this job anymore.
Yes.
And it's unbelievable, the number of people that are saying that all of a sudden. It's like I've been on the treadmill, I've stepped off for a moment, and it's longer than holidays. I didn't just go quickly to Hawaii and come back again, and I'm back into the trying to pay down my credit cards again. They're thinking, and they're getting ready to enroll in other courses, change careers, like complete changes. I'm thinking this is in some ways been a good thing. I'm not losing sight of the fact that a lot of people are suffering from this, financially and physically, but. Some of us will get a chance to press the reset button,
Yes, I think it has done that for a lot of people. Put some stress on many relationships too, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, stuck in a house together. I feel sorry for people in 2-bedroom apartments and that sort of thing. We're in a really big house. It's like 33 metres long. And my wife has an office at the other end of the house, so she's 30 metres away. And I've got my office at this end of the house. I've got 2 offices and a waiting room here. And it's just perfect. We're back onto a 17-acre park. And
oh, beautiful.
it's just wonderful. So when we go for a walk, we just go for a walk around the park and come back again. That's 5 minutes.
Yes. Oh, that's just absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
So, Paul, has been a very successful, and still is, a very successful career path for you, and whoever would have thought it?
Yeah, well, I was given a reading by a guy, I don't know if you know him, I think he was based in Melbourne, Tom Wards, years ago. Scottish guy. He was a...
yes, I know Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that accent. You've gone overseas, there's overseas travel there for you. And off you go. He just talk at you for 15 minutes, you know. Unbelievable information coming at me. And he said, you'll do a lot in this field, you know. And that was it. He said, you'll do some work in this field too, and you'll love this field. That was it. It was just a passing comment and everything else. I thought, wow, I wish because when I asked him questions to go back, he'd lost the thread, you know. And so that was another training lesson for me, where I thought, when I'm doing this, I want to be able to go back and find the thread every time if I can, you know. And so what I do these days, if I'm in pure clairvoyance readings, particularly, I'll say to clients, look, I'm just going to talk. If I'm talking about something you want to know more about, jump in and ask me there, because at the end you'll say, earlier you said, and I'll say, did I? You know, because I get out of the way for that one, you know. And but I went to see him because this was back in '77, because a good friend of mine had a reading from him, and she said, he said to her, I see a friend of yours jumping out of a plane who'll break both his legs, and I've just taken up parachuting. And I thought, well, I'm not married to parachuting, I can let it go, you know. I mean, it is a ridiculous thing, jumping out at 3,000 feet and letting gravity do the rest.
Well, that would have been your wands energy, I guess.
Absolutely, as a bit of a wands. I'm not going to die. Nothing can kill me. That's every teenager, isn't it? You know. But I gave it up, and these days I'm a much more moderate man. You know?
Well, I like to think that my fire sign teenager is still in there somewhere and can come out to play occasionally.
Well, I see it sometimes with a friend of mine. I call it the daily rant. You know, I'm on the train in the quiet carriage, and this woman's on the phone, and I nearly, you know, and you get it every time you see her. She's telling you about the next thing that somebody did that was, you know, and just vigorous and assertive at the same time. You know, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we're very fortunate, Paul, to have started all of this when we did, because you know, it's much harder now, I think, for anyone who's wanting to start out in a career similar to ours. Yeah,
it is. Just very different, isn't it? It's very different. Because I agree with you. The early days, people had a scrap of paper with your number on it, and there was a bit of a nod and a wink at a dinner or past under the table. And now everyone's got a website, everyone's got a...
Yes. I think we're very blessed and fortunate to have done that. So,
now,
Paul, I think we're getting the wind-up call.
Okay.
So, I think everyone will put all your books online, and after this chat, I'm sure people will be really rushing to wherever they buy their books from to buy them. I know I'll be getting you a new one. It sounds
good. I'll send one down to you anyway. Yeah.
Oh,
thank you. Does the Guild have a library as well?
No.
Okay. You need to start one. That's a job for somebody there. Delegate that.
All right, I'll give that to someone on the committee, Paul.
Fantastic.
It'll be passed on.
Yeah, that's good.
So it really has been lovely talking to you, and I'm sure everyone who's watching us will really enjoy your stories and all your experience, Paul. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
It's been great to talk to you. Thanks.
Okay. Perhaps you'll come in person when all this is over.
Absolutely. I'll be looking forward to it, because I love the feel of a room when you've got a room.
Yes, I know. I can see that you really would know how to work a room, Paul. Yeah. So we'll look forward to that.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.